Wander over yonder, in The Friendship written by Angel She 24, Lord Hater. Sylvia, last time, thanks to some cheap low-liver mechanic that gave us some old, broken-down hunk of junk, Wander and I landed on a mysterious planet that was populated mostly by a bunch of pony inhabitants who had tattoos on their butts called cutemerks. They seem like pretty good folk and are very friendly, but for some maybe too friendly. We even met one who was considered the kindest pony in Ponyville, which was the name of the town we were in by the way, named Fluttershy. Wander was really glad to meet her and I didn't find her to be too bad myself. But now, Wander and I are focusing on figuring a way off of this planet. Not that I didn't enjoy its atmosphere. But pretty soon, the citizens went into panic as Ponyville was suddenly under attack and being invaded by none other than Lord Hater. Ooh, that guy is just asking for a butt whooping. Wander and Sylvia looked up in the sky and saw it, a giant skull-shaped spaceship ascending down to the ground. It was their number arch-enemy Lord Hater. He was now here invading Ponyville, probably looking for them since their capture was his #1 priority, but it would be no surprise to Sylvia if he decided to conquer this place in the process. Well, how about that, said Wander with a smirk. Who would have thought that we would run into him here? Now how do you suppose he found us here so easily? Sylvia glared at him and said, well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that we're his #1 capture priority, and that he just so happens to strangely have some DNA samples from us that he uses to locate us so easily. I mean honestly, you'd think that he would use our DNA to make evil clones of us to destroy us. The giant ship was landing and it floated right over Town Hall. Many ponies were hiding away and some standing nearby, curious and scared at the same time at what was invading their town. Well, said Wander with a sly tone, I suppose that it would be kinda rude if we don't go to say hello. Sylvia quickly grabbed Wander as he tried to walk off and told him, oh no you don't. This is what we're going to do. She then hid herself and Wander into a nearby bush. We're going to hide in these bushes and see just what he plans to do. And when the time is right, then we'll go say hello, my way. Are you sure about this, Sylvia? Wander wondered. Of course I'm sure. Sylvia responded, feeling miffed. No offense to these ponies, but they don't stand a chance against Hater and his troops. If he lays one hand on any of them, I'll punch his lights out. Wander just smiled at Sylvia and nodded his head. I knew that you'd come to love in these ponies. Don't start, Sylvia groaned. The mouth of the giant ship suddenly opened and a long tongue-like ramp rolled up to the ground. Wander and Sylvia then saw Hater's henchmen, the watchdogs, march out in large groups, each possessing their own blaster. The ponies were a little freaked out by their appearance, seeing that their heads were all eye. After they all came out and covered their surrounding grounds, the commander of the troops, Commander Peepers, came out himself and made an announcement. Attention four-legged dwellers. I give you the biggest, baddest and most rocking red evil being in the universe, Lord Hater. Another taller figure came creeping out of the ship to the top of the ramp, and then slid down the ramp to the ground, bobbing his head and making a weird fork-like shape with his fingers, shouting, yeah, Lord Hater is in the house. And many fireworks were firing from his ship to make himself look good. Nice entrance, stated Wander to Sylvia. Sylvia just rolled her eyes as she continued to watch the scenario. Greetings, you pathetic pack of weaklings. I am, Lord Hater, the most supreme, evil being in the universe, and I shall soon conquer your puny planet. Why? Because I can. Suddenly, the mayor opened the doors of Town Hall and came out and shouted, what in Celestia's name is causing all of this racket? Then she saw all of the watchdog troops and Hater turn towards her directions with their evil glare. She just stood there for a few seconds in a state of shock and then slowly went back in and shut the door. Anyway, said Hater, before I ruin your peace and happiness, I do believe I'm on the lookout for these two individuals. He then rolled out a holographic scroll that showed the picture of the very aliens that crash-landed on their planet. Their names are Wander and Sylvia, and they are my #1 priority to capture. And I know that they're here. If you don't surrender them to me, you'll be doomed. You'll be doomed anyway. He then started laughing all evilly along with all of his henchmen, who found what he said funny. Well, that wasn't much of a compromise, said Wander. Sylvia glared at him and said, you think? In the middle of his evil laughter, a small rock came out of nowhere and banged up against Hater's helmet. It made his head ring and caught him off guard, causing him to fall. After getting back up, he looked all around in slight rage. Who threw that? I demand to know of who dared to make a strike at me. Haunted, said a young southern voice. Wander and Sylvia both gasped as they saw who it was. It was the little earth filly that they met before, named Apple Bloom. She was standing nearby glaring at the evil tyrant and his troops. We ain't gonna tell you alien freaks anything, Skullface. And don't think you're gonna take our planet that easy either. Is that filly out of her floorping mind? Sylvia exclaimed quietly. She's going to get herself seriously hurt, or worse. Brave little filly, ain't she? Said Yonder. Lord Hater, sir, shouted Peepers, you're not going to let a little pipsqueak pony like that show you up, are you? Hater looked at the filly intensely and growled, who do you think you are, little girl? It seems that you need to be taught an important lesson. Some lightning began to charge up in his finger, and before he swung to strike at her, a rope came out, wrapped around her and pulled her away from a standing spot soon enough just for the strike to just miss her. Apple Bloom landed right beside her big sister, Applejack, who was glaring at her as well, and Apple Bloom smiled nervously while blushing. Don't just burst out to an unknown enemy like that, sis. What would we do if you got seriously hurt? Sorry, Applejack. I just wanted to help, and I guess that was a bit foolhardy of me. Sylvia sighed of relief. Well, that was too close. That filly was too brave for her own good. Lord Hater decided to ignore the incident from the young filly for now and decided to carry on with his business. Now then, before I was rudely interrupted by a minor annoyance, I demand for you all to hand over your planet's leader to me and my troops. The sooner you do that, the less casualties there will be. I'm afraid you'll be quite disappointed, said a demanding voice. There isn't any sole ruler of this planet. Although, there are individuals who do rule over the lands. Hater and his troops' attention then turned to a purple pony who approached them with 3 others standing their ground, and then Applejack joined them. Well, I happen to be the ruler of this town. I'm Twilight Sparkle, and I believe I'm the one you want. But aren't they the same ponies that we met earlier? Sylvia wondered, and who is that purple one? I don't know, said Yonder, but something about that pony that gives me the happy jitters. Wow, look at all of them, said Pinky as she was eyeing all of the watchdog minions. They all have eyes for heads. That's so funny, and kinda creepy. Lord Hater looked upon who was in front of him and thought that taking over this planet would be easier than he thought. What do we have here? You're the ruler of this town and they are your little controlled followers. We are nothing of the sort, you big old brute. Rarity shouted, we are Twilight's most trusted and devoted friends. Honestly, someone needs to teach you some manners. She seems nice, said Yonder looking at Rarity. A bit of a drama queen if you ask me, Sylvia responded. You should have seen her earlier keeping her gaze at Lord Hater. Twilight instructed, look, I don't know who you may think you are or what your business here is, but you're not taking over anything. If I were you, I'd take my little army, hop back into your ship, and leave this place, before you make a grave mistake. Suddenly, Hater and all of his minions got themselves into a fit of laughter, not believing the word Twilight said. It obvious to Hater that they were probably just bluffing to try and scare him. Ha, do you honestly think that a bunch sissy ponies like all of you can stand a chance against me? Let's see you call this little trick sissy, shouted Rainbow as she rose up in the air. Rainbow, wait, shouted Twilight as she tried to stop her. But Rainbow ignored her and dashed down from the sky at blistering speed towards Hater. However, Hater stayed calm and held up his hand right before Rainbow reached him. In result, Rainbow ended up smack right up against a giant shield that surrounded Hater. Heh, force field, he said with an evil smirk, gets them every time. Then with a flick of his finger, Hater sent Rainbow flying back in an electrical shock and crashed right beside her friends. Ooh, that's gotta hurt, said Yonder as he and Sylvia winced from the Rainbow Mare's impact on the ground. Commander Peepers rushed up beside Hater and shouted at his troops, all hail Lord Hater. And all of them began cheering loudly to praise their leader. Ready to surrender now, sissies, shouted Hater. Fat chance, shouted Rainbow Dash as her friends were helping her up off the ground. We'll never surrender to you, Skullface. No one is allowed to speak to Hater that way, scum, shouted Commander Peepers in anger. Rainbow just scuffed, whatever you say, Peeps. Suddenly, Peepers got a little miffed and shouted, my name is Peepers, not Peeps. Oh, look at me, said Pinky in a teasing tone. I'm Commander Peepers, and I'm peeping at you being full of yourself. Suddenly, all of the surrounding ponies started to laugh at Peepers from Pinky's comment. He began shouting and babbling many words while angrily stomping in place. They didn't realize what he was shouting, but maybe it was better that way. Sylvia was cracking up herself, finding Peepers' reaction priceless. Haha. Peeps, I gotta remember that one. She then turned to Wander's direction to tell him of what she was planning next. Alright, Wander, here's what we're going to do now. We're gonna, but unfortunately to her, he wasn't there. He disappeared. But where the heck did he go now? She looked all around her but didn't see him anywhere. It seemed that he was acting on his own again. But great, he's going to end up blowing our cover. I'll give you one more chance, Lord Hater, Twilight commanded to the evil alien. Leave right now, and keep your dignity. The only ones around here who will lose their dignity, stated Hater, will be all of you. Peepers. Yes, sir. Peepers responded in a salute. All right, men, prepare to, but before he gave a command, Twilight's friend suddenly saw a familiar creature zip up to her. Everything came to a sudden halt as they all saw him getting excited and shouting out loud. Oh my gosh, my mind is blown. Look at ya, you have wings and a horn. Twilight looked at the creature with an arched eye as he zipping all around her. Unigus. No, wait, Pegacorn. No, hold on, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm an alicorn, corrected Twilight. Wanda pondered on the pronunciation of the word for a second, then he smiled and said, oh, okay, an alicorn. Let's go with that. Oh my gosh, Twilight, shouted Pinky, it's him, the cute-looking little alien that crash-landed here. Twilight looked back at Wanda and was amazed at just how unusual he appeared to be, aside from the other group of visitors. So you wonder, she said to him, you really are a unique species of alien. But, where is the other one that is supposed to be with you? Sylvia? Said Wanda. Oh, yeah no, she is, around. Sir, are you seeing this? Shouted Peepers, it's him, it's Wanda. But, I don't see the other one. Worry about that later, Hater commanded, get Wanda now. Many of the watchdogs aimed their zappers at Wanda and set them to stun. But before they could shoot, Twilight suddenly ignited her magic and brought up a shield in front of them. The watchdogs went on ahead and fired their zappers, but all shots were easily repelled off from the shield. They were nothing to Twilight. What? Peepers exclaimed. Sylvia, who was still hiding in some nearby bushes, sighed with relief and was prepared to sneak off to plan a sabotage plan herself. Well, Wanda, I guess I'll make an opportunity for me. Her excitement. Meanwhile, Wanda was staring dazedly at Twilight's shield and was blown away at how effective it was. Wow, that was cool. Super cool. He then looked over at Hater and winked. Hey there, Hater. Trying to take over another planet I see. Yeah no, ever thought of having a different hobby, like bowling, or skydiving, or watching TV, or be a doctor, or maybe even knitting? Or, yeah know what, maybe even, enough. Hater shouted in rage, feeling irritated from Wanda's constant babbling. I only have one hobby and one hobby alone. To be the most awesome, super, ultra, powerful, evil being in the entire universe. Everyone was blown away by Hater's response, especially of how long and elaborated his claim so-to-be title was. I know all that, said Wanda, just trying to suggest a few alternatives. I'm just saying. Oh, maybe you can be a dancer. I just love dancing. Wow, he's such a chatterbox, said Rarity. And he's so full of energy, Applejack chuckled. I know, said Pinky, do we know an eye pony like that? Twilight schooled Wanda back with her hoof as she smirked and told him, you might want to step back, Wanda. Things are about to get a bit ugly around here. I say but awesome is more like it. Applejack suddenly went over to Rainbow Dash and asked her, hey, Rainbow, have you seen Fluttershy? She's not here yet. I don't know, Rainbow responded, I couldn't find her anywhere, but I thought that she would have shown up by now. Twilight decided to give Hater one more warning before they all took action. She stared him down with her wings up and horn glowing, leave this planet, now. If you don't, we won't hold back with our power. Twilight, Rainbow tried to say. But she was cut off by more of Hater's evil laughter. Ooh, I'm so scared. Really I am. But even so, I'm afraid that you won't dare to attack me. Oh really? Said Twilight sarcastically, please, do tell us why we wouldn't. Because I have a hostage. Suddenly, Twilight and her friends were at a standstill. What? Bring out the prisoner. Hater commanded. They all watched as a shadowed figure was being led out of the ship's opening and by a few more of Hater's watchdog troops with weapons in hand. A figure most familiar. But they all gasped upon seeing it who it was being held against their will. Fluttershy. So that's what happened to her, Rainbow Dash groaned. Fluttershy looked down at her friends in the crowd as she was let down the ramp and Hater. She blushed as she nervously smiled and winked, hey girls. Oh no, this is bad, Twilight thought to herself. Hey there, Miss Shy. Shouted Wanda as he waved back at her, I see you've met Hater, ain't you hoot? Why you could say that, Fluttershy responded. Lord Hater felt very good about himself. He had a feeling that capturing this pony was going to help him in some way. He laughed evil again and started to gloat in their faces. I just saw this pony flying right in my pathway and figured I would hold her hostage in case she was important in any way. But how could she? I wondered to myself. She's too shy and timid. That's for sure, said Peepers. But judging by the looks on all of your pitiful faces, I'm guessing that she really is important. How lucky am I? Well, this can't be good, said Yonder. Now then, let us try this again, shall we? You will surrender yourself to me and proclaim me as your new leader. And if you try to attack me or resist in any way, I will destroy your precious friend right where she stands. Sylvia snuck her way to the top of Hater's ship and was right above him, ready to take him by surprise. But as she saw what was happening, she growled, knowing that doing anything would risk Fluttershy's life. What a no good low life, she said to herself. This is a whole new low, even for a powerful, planet-conquering, evil tyrant like him. Now they're just playing dirty, you're evil tyrant, shouted Applejack. Anyone who holds a hostage in this kind of situation is nothing but a coward, and what you are being. Well, I'm afraid that fact really doesn't matter me, Hater responded. Hello, I'm evil. I don't play fair. And if you don't like it, then tough cookies. Pinky was then jumping up and down and suggested, ooh, cookies. We'll give you cookies if that's what you want. I don't think he meant it that way, Pinkie Pie, said Rarity. Fluttershy felt like she was the reason none of her friends weren't able to lift a hoof against this strange alien and his army. They cared about her safety too much. She looked down at them slightly tearing and said, I'm so sorry, Everipony. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Just do what you have to do, I'll be fine. Forget that, Fluttershy, shouted Fluttershy. This isn't your fault. This guy is just being a selfish, evil jerk who will do anything to get what he wants. Rainbow Dash added. You're darn right I am. Hater growled. So, will you all come quietly, or do I have to make an example out of your friend here? Fluttershy whimpered a bit as she saw Hater pointing at her with electricity running through his fingers. Oh dear. What do we do now, Twilight? Whispered Applejack. I'm thinking. Wanda was there with them, wondering what they were going to do to rescue Fluttershy. But just then, he looked up and noticed Sylvia looking at him from the top of Hater's ship. Sylvia made some kind of movement with her hands and then winked while giving him a thumbs up. Wanda realized what she wanted to do and smiled as he winked back at her. While they were all wondering what to do about their situation, Twilight suddenly saw Wanda as he stepped forward and went past her shield. Wanda, what are you doing? She asked in concern. You're not safe outside my shield. Not to worry, Miss Twilight, I got this all under control. The rest of her friends were wondering what he's doing too, but knowing that he dealt with Hater before, they figured that he had something planned. When he was close enough, all watchdog troops blocked his path and Peepers came in front of him pointing his laser at Wanda's head. Halt right there. Wanda just calmly smiled and pushed the laser to the side and said, no need for senseless violence, fella, and turning himself in. He is what? Twilight and all of her friends said at once. What the hey is he thinking? Said Applejack. This ain't gonna end well. Twilight nervously shrugged and said, and maybe, he knows what he's doing, I hope. Wanda went past the troops and up the ship's ramp until he finally reached Hater, who had a huge grin on his face. Wanda looked up at him and tipped his hat as he said, what's up, Hater? Here I'm in your custody. Hater laughed, feeling great about capturing Wanda, and he knew that Sylvia would be at his mercy soon enough. He looked down at the crowd as he gloated, well that was easy. It seems that even Wanda, the little alien annoyance that has avoided me many times, has finally realized what he has beaten. Indeed I do, Wanda seemed to agree, but I only did it because I figured that we could work out a deal. Oh, this ought to be good, Peeper said sarcastically. These ponies, they've done nothing to you, and Miss Fluttershy did nothing to you either. I am the one you want, so here's the deal. You let these ponies off the hook and let Miss Fluttershy go, and I'll tell you where Sylvia is and you can have us both in your custody. Then we can leave this planet and pretend that none of this never happened. So what do you say? Was Hater going to agree to his deal? Was he fine with it? Was this really going to work? These questions went through many of the ponies' thoughts as they were waiting for an answer. Unfortunately, Hater just chuckled to himself and said, how about this? I capture both you and Sylvia and I still take over this stinking planet. How about that? Rude, Rainbow scoffed. I know, Pinky agreed, and he tried to ask nicely too. Wanda just scratched his head as he tried to offer his deal again. Maybe I didn't speak clearly enough. Just let them go. Sylvia and are the ones you want, not them. Why not be a little more merciful and let them all be? They have nothing to do with this. Who do you think you're fooling? Said Hater. You're probably planning some sort of trick, so you can just forget it. I have you right where I want you, and I will take this planet whether you like it or not. Suddenly, Wanda lowered head and tipped his hat over his face. And then he spoke back in a more darker and serious tone. Just listen to yourself, Hater. I'll try to be nice and go along with my capture quietly, but you're just not listening. Everyone noticed how different Wanda was acting, mainly Fluttershy, who was right there and saw it with her own eyes. Oh, what's going on? The little feller is suddenly sounding a little serious, said Applejack. What do you think he's planning? Twilight wondered as well. She thought that maybe it was a way to psych Hater out. Wonder suddenly looked back up at Hater sporting a serious expression. Now, I'll ask you all one more time, Hater. Leave Fluttershy and the ponies alone, or else there will be big trouble. But Hater still wasn't being fazed by Wonder's strange behavior as he responded in rage. Well, obviously you missed the part of my speech when I said that I was evil. I am evil and nothing but evil. I do nothing nice and show no mercy to anyone. I will do what I want, wherever I want, whenever I want. I will do what I wish and take deals from no one, especially you. Hater was right in Wonder's face on his last comment, and Wonder continued to stare at him for a few seconds. But then, his usual smile came back on his face and then he just shrugged as he said, okay, suit yourself. I guess I did all I could do. Fluttershy gasped and all of her friends' jaws dropped seeing what just happened. After all of that, Wonder was just giving up. That's it. That's all he was going to do. Shouted Rainbow Dash, are you kidding me? Well, I guess I could have been wrong about him, knowing what to do, said Twilight regrettably. Perfect. Nice try anyway, Wonder, said Fluttershy nervously with a slight smile. Just doing my duty, Mom. Hater now felt that victory was finally at hand for him. Now that that's out of the way, it's time for me to continue what I do best. There are going to be some big changes around here, but then out of nowhere before he could react, Wonder's friend, Sylvia, came dropping down from above and pounced right on top of Hater. Hater's speech was muffled and Fluttershy screamed out loud from Sylvia's sudden appearance. Coming my way. Sylvia shouted as she suddenly scooped up Fluttershy and Wonder and leapt off and away from Hater and towards the crowd. While Fluttershy covered her eyes, Wonder waved his hands up in the air enjoying the minor right ear had. Oh my goodness. Fluttershy shuddered. When Hater realized what happened, he shouted, why you little, oof. But then he was knocked down by Rainbow Dash who bashed into him. Huh. That was for the force field. After Sylvia landed in front of Fluttershy's friends, Wonder hopped off, but Fluttershy was still covering her eyes and shaking from the fast rescue. Sylvia rolled to her eyes and said, you can cover your eyes now, Fluttershy. Fluttershy slowly uncovered her eyes, realizing that she was away from danger. But I'm safe. That was awesome, Sylvia. Shouted Wonder in excitement. I'm sure glad I've thought of the plan. You moron, said Sylvia chuckling. You jumped the gun and you know it. And for what? An alicorn pony. Yeah, my bad. Twilight and all of her friends suddenly came over to the alien duo feeling amazed and whooped. Hey, that was so awesome. Shouted Pinky. Hey, I said the exact same thing. Wonder responded. I know, but I couldn't help myself. Twilight went up to Sylvia to thank her for what she did for them and asked, you planned it all along, didn't you? Well, not exactly, but it still worked out well, didn't it? Ha, that Lord Hater didn't even see it coming. Well, thanks so much for saving our friend. You did a major feat today. I've done bigger. The watchdog troops were checking to see how their boss was doing. Mainly Commander Peepers. Lord Hater, sir, please say something, anything. What's your lord going to do now that he has no hostage? Shouted Applejack. I'm afraid that victory is as good as ours. Peepers suddenly felt Hater's body start to shake. He began to freak out, realizing what was about to happen. Oh no, stand back men, Lord Hater is going to blow. Hater was growling. He was huffing and puffing in anger. His voice, lowly bellowing, saying, how dare you, humiliate me like that. He jumped to his feet and his body was engulfed in fire from his angered rage. Whoa, someone has temper issues, said Rarity. He usually does, Sylvia responded, nothing new here. Hater glared down at all of them and shouted, I gave you all a chance to surrender quietly, but now, you shall all pay the price. Uh-oh, I think we might have made him a bit mad, said Wonder. Hater raised up both of his hands and a huge electricity current were coursing through them, forming a giant meteor ball that slowly was becoming bigger over time. Perhaps this will set an example to many other puny creatures on this planet to never cross, Lord Hater. All of the ponies looked up at it in horror. And while some ran away from it, some couldn't move because they were frozen with fear. However, Twilight and her friends weren't moved at all. This is bad, Sylvia panicked. Everyone, run away as fast as you can or you'll all be destroyed. Wonder wasn't quite sure what they were going to do and also feared what would become of this town. But then suddenly, he and Sylvia saw a little green dragon run up to Twilight carrying a wooden case. Hey, Twilight, I go here as soon as I could. And the dragon then looked up and noticed the giant, growing electric ball that was floating under an evil-looking guy's hands. Could anyone please explain the giant electrical ball of doom growing over us? We don't have time for that, Spike, said Twilight. Did you get them? Spike bowed down on one knee and opened the case, revealing its contents. As you requested, m'lady. Wonder and Sylvia saw as Twilight lifted 6 jewel-like necklaces out of the box with her magic and placed them around her friends' necks. They also noticed that all had shapes that were the same as their cutie-marks. All right, girls, said Twilight, it's time for us to strike back and send this jerk and his troops packing. What the heck with those things, said Sylvia, and how are they going to stop Hater? Wanda was dazzled by their bright shine and was itching to reach out for them. They're all so shiny. Cannot touch him when you're done. These are Equestria's strongest items of defense, explained Twilight, the elements of harmony. Just stand back and be amazed. Twilight and her friends came together, focused their energies with each other, and then their elements began to glow ever so brightly. The light surrounded their bodies and their eyes filled with the power's brilliance. This was nothing new to see to those in Ponyville or anyone in Equestria, but for Wanda and Sylvia, they stood back and watched, feeling shocked and stunned about these ponies' power. Whoa, amazing, said Sylvia. I don't know what's going on, but it looks good. I can't contain my excitement, shouted Wonder. It's so dazzling, I think I'm gonna wet myself. Please don't. As Hater continued to enlarge his attack, Peepers saw what Twilight and the others were doing. They're planning something, sir. Look. But apparently, Hater didn't seem to worry at all. Anything you do now is futile. You will all perish for crossing me and my power. Then with that, he released his attack towards the town. But Twilight and the others were ready. Don't hold back, girls. Strike now. Twilight and her friends unleashed their power at Hater, and it clashed against his. They pushed with all of their might. At first they seemed to struggle a bit. Whoa, he is pretty strong, Twilight, said Applejack. However, Twilight had faith in her friend's strength. That doesn't matter, we will burst through. The watchdogs constantly cheered on for their boss to be victorious. Go Hater, go Hater, go Hater, go Hater. But unfortunately for Hater, he suddenly started to feel his power dwindle against the elements of harmony. How is this happening? My power can't be held back by a bunch of pansy ponies. Twilight and her friends didn't back down from protecting their home. Twilight then made one last piece of advice to Hater. Get this, Lord Hater. We've faced many monsters, enemies and powerful villains. She then flashed a grin, but out of all of them, you are by far the weakest. Hater was shocked. What? Hater's attack was then shattered, and the rainbow-colored beam was headed right towards Hater, and he was so stunned he couldn't do anything to stop what was coming. Ah, this can't be happening. Hater was then ricocheted into the endless sky by the giant rainbow beam, and he went soaring all the way into space, and out of Ponyville's sight. Wanda looked up in Hater's direction, and waved while shouting, later, Hater. Oh no, Lord Hater. Commander Peepers shouted in agony. After they powered down from the elements, Rainbow Dash looped in the air and shouted, and that's how you get rid of a bad guy, Ponyville style. And she went by all of her friends giving them a high hoof. That was unreal, said Sylvia. She was still standing there in awe of what she just witnessed. Meanwhile, Peepers was reaching out to the heavens crying out, no, Lord Hater, come back, Savior. But then he and all of the watchdogs gasped and stepped back as they saw the ones who defeated Hater step towards them. Well, Mr. Peepers, said Twilight, I suggest that you and these troops go after your boss and never come back to this planet. Rainbow Dash then grinned and pounded her foreheads together. That is, unless you all wish to have the same treatment. Ah, no, no need for that, said Peepers in panic, feeling scared for his life. That is not necessary. Retreat, men, retreat. Peepers and all of his troops quickly rushed into the ship and quickly ran away with no desire to turn back. With them now gone, Ponyville rejoiced in being safe once again. Twilight celebrated themselves with each other in successfully saving the day once again, and Spike was there with them too. Well, what do you know, said Sylvia, finally being blown out of her mind. They actually defeated Hater. Huh, how about that, Saya, said Wanda as he elbowed her and slyly grinned. Still think that they weren't capable of defending themselves? Sylvia just smiled and chuckled. Okay, you're right, Wanda. Obviously, they're stronger than I thought them to be. They might just be ponies, but it's obvious that they didn't need us to defend them. Ain't that the truth? Wanda responded. Wanda and Sylvia knew that they traveled to many planets with many unusual discoveries. But now, this planet was by far unlike anything they've ever witnessed. So, want to ask them more about the tattoos on their butts? Wanda asked Sylvia while chuckling. Maybe we can get you a fake one as a parting gift. I think I'll pass, Sylvia groaned. These ponies are alright,